Ladies and gentlemen, imagine waking up every day with the unshakable belief that no matter what happens, everything in your life is already working out in your favor. Imagine approaching every challenge, every setback, every uncertainty not with fear or hesitation, but with calm confidence and unstoppable momentum. What would change if you acted as if the universe itself was conspiring to make your goals a reality? Today, I'm going to show you why this one shift in mindset can transform the way you live, the way you lead, and the way the world responds to you. Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to take a moment and imagine something with me. Imagine living your life with the unwavering belief that everything, absolutely everything, always works out for you. Not sometimes, not if you're lucky, but always. Imagine the clarity, the confidence, the calm that would flood your mind every single day if you truly operated from that place. Because here's the truth, your actions, your energy, and the way you approach challenges are deeply shaped by the story you tell yourself about what's possible. And when you act as if everything works out for you, the world begins to respond to that story. Most people wait for certainty before they take action. They wait for the perfect plan, the ideal moment, the flawless conditions, and while they wait, life moves on. Opportunities pass, potential remains unrealized, but those who act as if everything works out, they don't wait. They move forward with the assumption that their efforts, their intentions, and their choices will lead them somewhere meaningful. They carry a kind of quiet confidence that is magnetic, that draws people, resources, and opportunities toward them, simply because the universe senses someone who believes they can navigate it. Acting as if everything works out does not mean ignoring reality. It doesn't mean pretending there aren't problems, setbacks, or obstacles. It means choosing how you respond to them. It's the difference between reacting in fear and moving in faith. It's about telling yourself a different story, the story in which your mistakes are lessons, your challenges are opportunities, and your failures are simply steps toward a greater success you can't yet see. When you act from this mindset, you stop wasting energy on worry, regret, and doubt. Instead, you focus on what you can do right now to shape the outcome you desire. Think about the way people respond to confidence. We are naturally drawn to those who act with purpose and conviction, even when the path isn't clear. That magnetism comes not from arrogance or ignorance, but from a deep trust in one's own capacity to navigate life. When you move as if things are already working out, you create momentum, you inspire collaboration. Doors that once seemed closed begin to open because your energy signals possibility instead of limitation. This mindset changes how you approach risk. People who wait for guarantees avoid risk entirely because guarantees don't exist. But when you act as if everything works out, risk transforms into exploration. You stop fearing failure and start experimenting. Every decision, every step, every pivot is an opportunity to learn, to grow, to refine your strategy, and to create a future aligned with your vision. Acting as if everything works out makes you resilient, because it gives you a perspective where setbacks are temporary, and the bigger picture remains intact. I want you to consider the small choices you make every day. When you act as if everything works out, you notice opportunities that others miss. You take actions that others avoid. You speak words that inspire instead of discourage. You cultivate relationships with generosity instead of suspicion. And over time, these small actions compound into extraordinary results. It's not magic. It's consistent behavior fueled by a belief that your efforts matter, and that the world will respond to someone who approaches it with clarity and courage. Acting as if everything works out is also contagious. People around you start to mirror your energy. Teams become more collaborative. Communities become more supportive. The more you operate from this place, the more you invite others to step into possibility rather than limitation. You become a living example of what is possible when fear does not dictate your decisions, when hesitation does not define your actions, and when faith in yourself fuels every move. And finally, remember this, your life is not a series of isolated events, it's a narrative, and the story you tell yourself shapes the reality you experience. By choosing to act as if everything always works out, you are rewriting the narrative of your life. You are stepping into a role where opportunity, growth, and achievement are not just dreams, but the natural outcome of your mindset and your choices. You are choosing to live in a state of possibility rather than limitation, courage rather than fear, action rather than hesitation. Every challenge becomes a stepping stone, every obstacle becomes a lesson, every failure becomes a catalyst for the next great success. When you operate from this perspective, you begin to see that life is not something that happens to you. Life is something you actively shape, and the world in turn begins to respond in kind, offering doors, connections, and experiences that align with the story you are living. So choose to act as if everything works out, not because it's guaranteed, but because by doing so, you create the conditions for success, resilience, and fulfillment that most people only dream about. And when you begin to operate from this mindset consistently, something remarkable happens. Your perception of obstacles changes entirely. Challenges no longer appear as threats. They appear as opportunities to test your ingenuity, to stretch your resilience, and to grow in ways you never imagined possible. The moment you act as if everything works out, you stop being a victim of circumstance and start being the architect of your own destiny. You begin to see solutions where others only see problems, pathways where others see dead ends, and potential where others see impossibility. This is not about blind optimism, it is about purposeful optimism. It is the deliberate choice to assume that through action, learning, and persistence, the outcome will favor you, not because the world owes you anything, but because you are committed to engaging with it in a way that aligns with your vision. When you approach life this way, you shift from being reactive to being proactive. You take control of your energy, your attention, and your decisions, and the more consistently you do this, the more naturally it becomes part of your identity. You start to inhabit a space where fear and doubt are no longer dominant voices, but quiet background noise that no longer dictates your direction. Imagine the power of showing up to every situation with this mindset. When you walk into a meeting, a negotiation, a relationship, or even a moment of uncertainty, there is a calm certainty about you. People notice it, they respond to it, they trust it. Because acting as if everything works out communicates a fundamental truth about character, that you believe in your ability to navigate life, even when the terrain is rough. And trust me, there is nothing more compelling or influential than someone who exudes that kind of confidence. When you adopt this perspective, you also change your relationship with failure. Failure is no longer a permanent mark or a reason to retreat. It becomes a necessary feedback mechanism, a guidepost, a teacher. Each misstep is an opportunity to recalibrate, to refine your strategy, and to deepen your understanding of what truly works. By acting as if everything works out, you remove the emotional weight of failure and replace it with curiosity, experimentation, and forward momentum. You no longer fear falling, you learn how to fall wisely and how to get back up stronger than before. Another profound effect of this mindset is how it shapes your interactions with others. When you operate from confidence and trust in outcomes, you inspire collaboration rather than competition. People are drawn to your energy because you are not driven by desperation, scarcity, or fear. You are driven by purpose, vision, and action. Your relationships become stronger, your networks become more supportive, and your influence grows, not because you are pushing, but because you are leading with assurance and clarity. Acting as if everything works out cultivates a ripple effect, transforming the people and environments around you simply through your presence and consistency. Consider the small daily habits that reinforce this approach. The way you start your morning, the thoughts you nurture throughout the day, the language you use with yourself and others, they all compound to shape your reality. Acting as if everything works out requires discipline in thought and action. It requires you to consistently choose perspective over panic, action over hesitation, and faith over fear. And over time, these choices create a momentum that becomes almost unstoppable. The world responds to energy, and the energy you generate when you believe in favorable outcomes is magnetic. This mindset also frees you to take calculated risks. People who wait for certainty often remain in stasis, trapped by indecision and fear. Those who act as if everything works out understand that certainty is an illusion. The world will never hand it to you. What you can control is your commitment to your own path, your willingness to learn from experience, and your determination to persist despite setbacks. Acting as if everything works out allows you to embrace calculated risks not as gambles, but as experiments with potential, knowing that even if the immediate outcome isn't perfect, you will extract lessons, adapt, and move forward with greater intelligence and clarity. In the long term, this mindset transforms your life because it rewires your relationship with possibility. You no longer see success as distant or rare. You see it as an outcome that naturally follows deliberate, persistent action aligned with purpose. You stop measuring your life against the achievements of others and start measuring it against your own growth, learning, and the impact you create. Acting as if everything works out builds a quiet, resilient confidence that no external event can shake, because it is rooted in experience, effort, and intentionality, not luck or circumstance. And perhaps most importantly, it gives you peace of mind. In a world full of uncertainty, stress, and volatility, the belief that things will work out allows you to operate from a place of calm rather than chaos. Decisions become clearer, creativity becomes more accessible, and focus becomes sharper. Your energy is not drained by worry or second guessing. Instead, it is devoted to action, innovation, and connection. You are free to pursue meaningful goals without being paralyzed by fear, knowing that no matter the twists and turns along the way, you will find your path forward. Acting as if everything works out is a choice to live in possibility, to embrace challenges, to lead with courage, and to trust in the unfolding of your own journey. It is a commitment to yourself and to your vision, a decision to operate from resilience rather than fear, from faith rather than doubt. And when you adopt this approach consistently, you begin to see life differently, as a series of opportunities rather than obstacles, as a canvas for growth rather than a minefield of risk, and as a journey that responds to the energy, focus, and intention you bring to it. Every action you take from this place compounds, every relationship you nurture strengthens, and every challenge you encounter becomes a building block for your next success. It is not about avoiding difficulty. It is about transforming it, navigating it, and leveraging it as fuel for forward motion. The more you act as if everything works out, the more naturally life aligns with your vision, and the more you embody the very essence of leadership, courage, and possibility. And as you continue to operate from this mindset, you begin to notice a profound shift in the way opportunities present themselves. Life stops feeling like a series of random events and starts to feel like a carefully orchestrated sequence, responding to the energy and intention you bring into the world. Doors that once seemed closed start to open. Connections that once felt out of reach begin to appear. Situations that once intimidated you now feel manageable. This isn't coincidence. It is the natural consequence of a mindset that trusts in outcomes and acts decisively in pursuit of them. The power of acting as if everything works out is not just in how the world responds to you, but in how you respond to the world. When you approach life from a place of confidence and expectation, fear no longer dictates your decisions. You are free to take bold steps, to innovate, and to pursue ideas that others might dismiss. The people who change the world are rarely the ones waiting for certainty. They are the ones willing to step forward with faith, curiosity, and purpose. They act as if success is inevitable, not because it is guaranteed, but because they understand that their actions, persistence, and resilience will carry them through. This mindset fundamentally changes the way you think about setbacks. Instead of being discouraged by obstacles, you see them as feedback. Instead of being paralyzed by failure, you see it as data, a lesson on what works and what doesn't. Acting as if everything works out transforms failure from a stopping point into a stepping stone. Every challenge becomes a chance to adapt, to refine your approach, and to strengthen your resolve. And as you embrace this perspective, you begin to take action faster, make decisions more confidently, and operate with a clarity that others envy. One of the most powerful aspects of this approach is the way it influences your relationships. When you act as if everything works out, you naturally exude calm and confidence, and people are drawn to that energy. You become someone who inspires trust, collaboration, and support. Others feel safer taking risks around you, knowing that your mindset is one of possibility rather than limitation. You create environments where innovation flourishes, where ideas are nurtured, and where collective success becomes achievable because fear and doubt no longer dominate the conversation. Acting as if everything works out also shapes the way you allocate your energy. Most people waste enormous amounts of time worrying about outcomes they cannot control. They ruminate on what-ifs and second-guess every decision. But when you operate from this mindset, you conserve your energy for action, focus, and growth. You stop being a passive observer of your life and start being an active participant. Every thought, word, and deed is aligned with the understanding that your actions matter, and that the path forward can be navigated with intention and persistence. Think about the ripple effect this creates. When you approach every situation with the assumption that things will work out, your confidence encourages others to step up, take risks, and believe in possibilities beyond their current perception. You influence not just your own outcomes, but the outcomes of everyone around you. Leaders who act as if everything works out cultivate environments where innovation, collaboration, and resilience thrive. They create cultures in which setbacks are met with curiosity rather than blame, and where obstacles are treated as opportunities for creative problem solving rather than reasons to retreat. This mindset also frees you to dream bigger. When you are not shackled by fear or uncertainty, your imagination becomes limitless. You start to pursue goals that others might consider unattainable, not recklessly, but strategically, with the confidence that persistence and adaptability will carry you forward. The vision you hold for yourself expands, and with it, your capacity to achieve more than you once thought possible. Acting as if everything works out empowers you to operate from a higher perspective, to see long-term potential instead of short-term difficulty, and to trust in the process even when immediate results are not visible. Moreover, it fosters patience with progress. People often abandon their pursuits because they measure success solely by immediate outcomes. But when you act as if everything works out, you recognize that growth, learning, and achievement are cumulative. Every small step, every incremental improvement, and every disciplined choice compounds over time. Success becomes not an isolated event, but a natural outcome of consistent action aligned with purpose. You learn to trust the journey, not just the destination, and that trust itself fuels perseverance. This perspective also cultivates resilience in the face of uncertainty. Life is unpredictable, and no plan is ever flawless. But when you act as if everything works out, uncertainty becomes an invitation rather than a threat. You become adaptable, resourceful, and creative. You are no longer controlled by circumstances, but guided by principles and values that give you a framework for navigating complexity. You develop an internal compass that helps you steer through challenges with clarity, decisiveness, and confidence. Acting as if everything works out rewires your relationship with fear. Fear is no longer a barrier. It becomes a signal that you are pushing beyond comfort zones, stepping into growth, and challenging yourself to achieve more. You learn to act despite fear, to embrace discomfort as a sign of progress, and to see risk as a necessary ingredient of meaningful achievement. By choosing action over avoidance, you accumulate experiences, skills, and confidence that reinforce the belief that life responds positively to those who engage it with faith and determination. Finally, operating from this mindset transforms how you view your own potential. You stop limiting yourself with doubt and start measuring what you are capable of based on your persistence, creativity, and resilience. Every decision is an opportunity to reinforce the story you are telling yourself. that you are capable, that the world responds to your action, and that your efforts are not wasted. The energy you generate through this mindset becomes self-reinforcing, creating a cycle of confidence, action, and opportunity that propels you toward outcomes far beyond what you once imagined. Every choice you make from this perspective strengthens your capacity to navigate life. Every setback becomes a lesson. Every success becomes a reminder that your mindset shapes reality. And the more consistently you act as if everything works out, the more life aligns with your vision, creating a trajectory of progress, growth, and fulfillment that is undeniable. And as you continue to embrace this mindset, something extraordinary begins to unfold in the way you experience time and opportunity. When you act as if everything works out, urgency becomes productive rather than frantic, focus becomes precise rather than scattered, and patience becomes a tool for growth rather than a source of frustration. You start to see that each moment carries potential, and that every interaction, every decision, and every challenge is a chance to advance toward your vision. You no longer wait for permission from the world or validation from others. You claim agency over your life and move forward with intentionality. This approach transforms how you handle uncertainty. Most people fear uncertainty because they believe it threatens their safety or their plans. But when you act as if everything works out, uncertainty becomes a landscape of possibilities instead of a minefield of risks. You develop the ability to navigate ambiguity with confidence, knowing that your choices, combined with your resilience and adaptability, will guide you toward favorable outcomes. This mindset allows you to approach decisions with clarity, even when the path isn't fully visible, because your focus is on what you can control, your effort, your perspective, and your actions. One of the most powerful consequences of this mindset is how it changes your relationship with challenges. Challenges no longer feel like insurmountable obstacles. They become invitations to innovate, to learn, and to expand your capabilities. Acting as if everything works out enables you to approach difficulties with curiosity instead of fear. Every problem becomes a puzzle to solve, every failure becomes a lesson to internalize, and every setback becomes a stepping stone toward growth. You start to see life not as a series of random hardships, but as a structured opportunity for development, where each experience contributes to your skill, wisdom, and resilience. This perspective also enhances your capacity to influence and inspire others. People are naturally drawn to those who radiate confidence, clarity, and purpose. When you act as if everything works out, you signal to the world that you are someone who can be trusted, someone who can lead, and someone who approaches life with integrity and vision. Your energy becomes magnetic. It attracts collaboration, mentorship, and support. You create an environment where others feel safe taking risks, where innovation thrives, and where collective progress becomes possible because your belief in favorable outcomes extends beyond yourself and inspires action in those around you. Acting as if everything works out also shapes the way you perceive risk. People who wait for guarantees are often immobilized by fear. They seek certainty in a world where certainty rarely exists. But those who operate from this mindset understand that risk is not something to avoid. It is something to navigate with courage and intelligence. Every step you take becomes an experiment, a test of your creativity, strategy, and resilience. Even if the outcome is not perfect, you gain insight, experience, and momentum. The act of moving forward itself generates progress, and over time, these incremental advances compound into transformative results. This mindset fundamentally changes the way you define success. When you act as if everything works out, you stop measuring achievement solely by external validation or immediate results. Success becomes a reflection of consistent action, learning, and alignment with purpose. Every effort, no matter how small, is a contribution to a larger trajectory. You begin to appreciate progress over perfection, persistence over convenience, and growth over comfort. By redefining success in this way, you free yourself from the paralyzing comparison that so often hinders progress, and you create a path that is uniquely yours, guided by your own values and vision. It also transforms the way you handle fear. Fear is an inevitable part of life, but it is no longer a barrier when you act as if everything works out. Instead, fear becomes a signal that you are pushing boundaries, exploring new territory, and stepping into growth. You learn to act despite fear, to take calculated risks, and to interpret discomfort as a sign of progress rather than a reason to retreat. The more you operate from this mindset, the more resilient and confident you become, because you understand that fear does not dictate outcomes, action does. Furthermore, this mindset cultivates patience without complacency. Life rarely unfolds exactly as planned, and delays are inevitable. But when you act as if everything works out, patience becomes an ally rather than a test of endurance. You develop the ability to persist, to adapt, and to maintain momentum even when results are not immediate. You understand that consistent effort guided by belief and clarity eventually yields outcomes that align with your vision. In other words, patience becomes productive, and waiting becomes an active, intentional process rather than passive stagnation. Every decision you make from this perspective becomes strategic rather than reactive. Acting as if everything works out trains your mind to anticipate opportunities, evaluate risks intelligently, and act with confidence even in the absence of guarantees. You stop being ruled by emotion and start being guided by principles, values, and long-term vision. This clarity allows you to move faster, act more decisively, and generate results that feel almost inevitable because your mindset has prepared you to recognize and seize possibilities that others overlook. This approach also enhances your capacity for creativity and problem solving. When you operate from the assumption that outcomes can work in your favor, you are free to experiment, iterate, and innovate without being paralyzed by fear of failure. You explore multiple pathways, test new ideas, and adapt quickly to feedback. Acting as if everything works out removes the pressure of perfection and replaces it with the energy of exploration, experimentation, and continuous improvement. Every setback becomes an opportunity to refine your approach, and every success reinforces the belief that your actions, persistence, and vision are powerful tools for shaping reality. Over time, this mindset becomes a self-reinforcing cycle. Confidence fuels action, action generates results, results build resilience, and resilience strengthens belief. Every challenge you face becomes a training ground, every opportunity an affirmation, and every interaction a chance to expand your influence. Acting as if everything works out creates a compounding effect, where your mindset, behavior, and outcomes are aligned in a way that accelerates growth, amplifies impact, and maximizes potential. When you consistently operate from this place, you start to see life differently. You see patterns instead of chaos, opportunities instead of obstacles, and possibilities instead of limitations. You approach each day with clarity, focus, and purpose, knowing that your actions matter and that your mindset shapes the outcomes you experience. Acting as if everything works out transforms not just what you achieve, but who you become, a person of resilience, courage, clarity, and influence, capable of navigating any circumstance with confidence and intentionality.